Hello, hello. It is Jeremy Greider, the e-commerce redneck, and today we have a really great guest I am super excited about because this is something that is practical. This is something that people, I think, will learn from, and it'll be useful to most people in e-commerce. We have Britt Taylor and Luke Larson from Shipware, which I won't steal their thunder too much, but basically they help you save money in shipping. And it's because they're pros from FedEx, UPS, all these guys. They know all the tricks of the trade and they help you save money. But Britt, Luke, if you guys could give me a little bit more, maybe introduce yourself, tell us a little bit more about the company.
Thanks for having us, Jeremy. We appreciate it. I'm Britt Taylor. I brought the smartest guy on my team, Luke, with me to be able to kind of showcase what we do. When it's all said and done, though, I think kind of nailed it. We have been in the big carriers, whether it's UPS or FedEx or DHL, the post office. I mean, our entire team has years and years of experience working for those guys. And it comes to a point when you're working for them, how much are we actually helping our customers? And it's not much help going on. So we came to this side of the house so that we could truly help those customers save money on the shipping. There's so much verbiage in the contracts that kind of eliminate or takes away the power from the shippers and eats into their margins. And with just this year alone, Luke will attest, I mean, we've had, I think we've seen over a dozen price increases from the big carriers in just the first 6-7 months of the year. So anytime you negotiate a contract, they typically want to start eating into those margins, and they do it by doing those increases all the time. And we try to help our customers eliminate those problems. And I'll let Luke kind of elaborate a little bit more on how we do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, Jeremy, we appreciate you having us on. And as Britt mentioned, one of the big challenges with shippers is it's hard to know, do you have a good contract? If you go to your rep, whether that's FedEx or UPS, they're always going to tell you they've got you the best rates and they've got you the best contract. But you never truly know until you benchmark that against folks that have a similar shipping profile, similar volume, similar industries. And we bring all of that data together from thousands and thousands of different shippers across different verticals and are able to give you an apples to apples comparison of truly how your contract stacks up versus somebody that's got a very similar product mix or shipping profile to yourself.
Right. Well, and so what does that look like? What does Shipware look like with a store? Is it an app that goes on the store? Is it how does it work and where does it work, I guess?
So we're working behind the scenes. So there's not an app or a plugin or anything like that. What we're doing is pulling that raw carrier data, what we call PLD or package level detail, directly from either your shipping system or the carrier's online billing, FedEx, UPS, et cetera. We're pulling in that data, and then we start with a no-cost assessment, benchmark your rates so we can both understand really where there's opportunity there and how your program stacks up against others. So we're working, and I mentioned about behind the scenes. I think that's an important piece. Back in 2011 or so, FedEx and UPS came out within a day of each other saying, we're not going to work with third-party negotiators, 3PNs. Reason being, as Britt mentioned, we erode into their margins. So we're working behind the scenes in a coach and counsel role to help you negotiate. It's really a white glove process, that best-in-class carrier agreement.
It can be so important too. I worked with Kettlebell Kings and we actually helped them through 2 exits. And really cool fact is the guy that I got to work with there is now the e-commerce director at GameStop. So he, pretty awesome. But I'll tell you, the one thing he did as the guy that ran all the e-commerce stuff there at that store was figure out shipping early on. And that was the one thing that allowed him to do everything else. And it's I always say it's kind of like a death by 1,000 knives, all the things you got to figure out in e-commerce. But this is one of the bigger ones. This isn't such a small knife. If you're getting really jacked on your e-commerce shipping, you're in trouble. So what are some of the things that y'all have been able to cure in e-commerce and the shipping world? What are some of your...
One of the really good things, Jeremy, about what we do is we don't want to change your operations at all. And that was the misconception. Even you led into that. Are you an app? Are you a software? We're not a where we're not a plug-in, we're not a third-party reseller, we're not selling rates, we're not doing any of that. If you're using UPS right now and you like UPS right now, we want you to
Right.
continue to use UPS. We want you to continue to use whatever software you're using, whether it's a Shopify store or whatever ERP system you happen to be on, or your WMS platforms. We deal with a lot of customers that typically ship $1 million or more a year, but this works for the same customers that ship $40,000 a year. In the end, we are here just to guide you, to help you get the best rates possible. We were just talking about the next conference we were going to is in Chicago. Well, what's going on in Chicago shipping wise? Because in Chicago, in that lane, there is a pricing director for UPS or for FedEx. They know
Okay.
what's going on in that lane. What's going on in Chicago is not what's going on in California.
Right.
Everything's more expensive in California. So guess what? They pay higher rates in California. What's going on in California is not what's going on in Florida. They're paying a little bit less in Florida. When you manage $20 billion worth of shipping data across the country, it's easier for us to benchmark and figure out where the market actually is, because we've got a bigger picture, right? It's not just you on the golf course with your buddies talking about, hey, how much are you paying for a 10-pound package? Well, we're paying $11.
Right.
Really? I'm paying 14. Well, the guy in Florida's paying 6. You'll never know that talking with your buddies on the golf course. And that's why bringing in us, we come in and we negotiate on your behalf, help you save that money. And just like you were talking about, or even when Luke talked about package level detail, heavier packages cost more. All the extra fees they add to it's not just a transportation fee. If you deliver it to a residential address, now you've got a residential fee. If you deliver it into the heart of Chicago to a residence, well, now you got the package fee, the residential fee, and now you have what's called an urban delivery fee. If it's outside of Chicago, out in the country somewhere, well, now you've got a transportation fee, you've got a residential fee, and now you've got a remote area surcharge fee. All these fees add up. That truck goes in. Every time that truck leaves the building and goes out there, guess what? Now you've got a fuel fee.
Yeah. Wow.
We tackle all of those fees to get you the best rates possible. You should be getting 50% off of that, or 75% off of this, or maybe no fuel at all, or maybe no residential, surcharges based on what your spend is, what your package looks like, and where it's going. And then, of course, there's zones, how far it's going. Is it all right here in your backyard? Or are we shipping it all the way across the country? Are we shipping it internationally? Everything has a fee. And the big carriers like to continuously add those fees throughout the year to eat into the margin. So if you negotiated, let's say we got 10% off, from last year, we negotiated hard. We sat down with the rep and they came in and said, look, we're going to give you an extra 10%. Well, it might not be 10% where we need it. If I don't ship anything next day air, 10% off there doesn't help me at all, does it? So you're only as good as the last contract, and that's what we try to do. We see a bigger picture, and we negotiate hard on your behalf. And then how we get paid, and I'll let Luke kind of go through that. He's a little better at it. Is we just take a little piece of the puzzle, or just a little piece of the pie for the work that we put in to get you where you need to be. And I'll let Luke explain a little bit more about that. And do keep in mind, I hate to rush, but at 12:30, I actually have to bail. I'm going to let Luke, kind of carry it out, but I'm meeting with one of the largest golf suppliers in the country, and we're going to see if we can't save them a few $1 million in some shipping costs.
That is awesome. Yeah. Well, I mean, duty calls sometimes,
It does, but I do appreciate the opportunity, Jeremy. I love what you guys are doing. I hope we'll, meet again. It was one of these. You probably should hit the shop talk in Chicago since you've never been. You'd probably get along out there really well. It's the same group of people that would love what you're doing and how you're doing it.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm going to try to get out there if I can. I believe we are planning on that, but I'll let everybody know real soon. Luke,
tell them about the pricing. How do we go about getting paid?
Absolutely. Nice thing about our model is most of our clients engage us on a contingency based, what we call a gain share model. So we're only taking a percentage of that delta. You're keeping the lion's share of what we saved you on the actual shipping costs. So comparing your previous rates, what we call the baseline, to the new rates that we help implement, and just sharing in that savings. So if we don't save you a nickel, you don't pay us one.
That's pretty good pricing. I like that. And what is your ideal customer kind of start at? You said, I believe, over $1 million in shipping, but what do you generally work with, or are there any things that outside of what you've told us already that you really specialize in or are good at?
Yeah, I'd say on average, our client, a typical client is spending $500,000 to 5-6 million a year. That being said, we've got clients that are shipping significantly less than that. We've got clients that are, approaching the 9-figure mark on their annual parcel spend. There's different solutions, and I think more importantly, different ways to go about the negotiations as far as what to ask for, and just as important, what not to ask for in a negotiation or what not to share with your rep. Here's one thing that's important, I think, is that most folks have the misconception that you're negotiating with your carrier rep. More often than not, that's not the case. You're negotiating through your carrier rep to the pricing department or the revenue management folks at FedEx, at UPS. So it's about crafting that story and crafting the why behind the strategy of why these rates make sense for you and your business, relaying that message to your rep so then they can make a concise request to the actual revenue management group at the respective carrier.
Awesome.
And then now, Jeremy, let's talk about the audit. Here's the cool.
Okay.
This is the really cool part. Every single shipper, doesn't matter how small or how big you are, every single one of them is going to ship a package out, and that package is not going to make it to where it's supposed to go.
Right.
That package is going to get damaged in the building somewhere. That package is going to get thrown into trash because the driver decided he didn't want to make a few extra stops that day, and he dropped them off in the dumpster. Believe me.
Don't put any bad juju on my guitars when I ship them. Okay.
That package is going to just somehow show up missing somewhere. Lost packages, damaged packages, misdelivered packages where, it got delivered at the wrong address. All of those things that happen. Let's say you a next day air package, but it didn't actually get delivered next day.
Right.
Every single customer is going to run into those problems, and typically they get just washed. Well, it happens. We'll ship out another one. We just lost $20.
Do y'all claw that back for them?
We do all the audits. So every week when you get a bill, we automate the process. So when you get your bills in, our system can go through and identify any lost, damage, missing, anything like that, any service failures, and we'll process those for you on your behalf. If you don't do that, then you've got to email your rep or call your rep, hope they do the job, hope they send it in, hope they get the credits back so that you see it on your next bill. If it didn't, you got to call the rep. So you're doing the follow-up because they don't really care if you get right. You got good reps and bad reps. Some are
it's a nightmare.
Some are not, but you can equate, 2 to 5% of your total spend every year is going to be on those type of things. And if you have an audit in place where it can automate that process and make that job easier for you, take something off your plate so that you're recouping any losses throughout the course of the year, that's a huge benefit for a company, especially a smaller company that just doesn't have the time or the manpower or the resources to put into doing this every single week. Because you have to go line by line by line by line by line.
Y'all are
own, and with us, we can automate that process for you.
Right.
And again, we just take a percentage of what we save you. So it's a win-win.
Right. I love it. I love the idea of, taking. I really liked it when Luke was talking about the pricing. It's like, hey, if we don't create the delta, we don't get a piece of the delta, And, I will say I have seen people absolutely blow their own minds because, when they first start out their store, they're so used to everything being way too expensive, right? And so they get it going, going along, and they think sometimes that's just the cost of doing business. They forget to look at things like, what is my rate with my credit card company? What is my shipping look like? Am I doing my taxes right? And I feel like, and I hope this is like a really good red alarm for some folks that go, oh, maybe I should think about this. I'm starting to mature as a store. I'm starting to become better at what I'm doing. Maybe I should dial it in.
You just hit a prime example. I mean, I think Shopify right now is the largest the first option, number one option for almost any new retailer, right?
Right.
And with Shopify, they make it extremely, and this is why they make it extremely easy, because you can get a Shopify store, you get your domain name, it comes preloaded with rates, whether it's the post office or UPS or FedEx, it comes preloaded with the rates. It comes preloaded with a merchant account that will process those payments for you. So yes, getting your store off the ground is super easy, but like anything, easy is how you bake a cake, right? The rates you're getting are horrible. The merchant fees you're paying are horrible. All this, easy out of the box solution comes with a price. So you're right. As you are starting to grow, those are the first things you really should start to look at is the shipping rate. Is this really the best shipping rate? Are
Right.
these the best merchant fees? And of course, anytime you change that, they want to charge you because they know that you're eating down to Shopify's margins. So they'll charge you to change from their preloaded shipping rate to your own UPS account or your own FedEx account or post office account. It's not much, but they still want to charge you, right? Because they're eating into their margins now. If you change your merchant out of Shopify, you're eating into their margins now, and they want to charge you for that too. So all those things, but you nailed it with that because it's super simple to get started on a lot of these things, but in the end, it's not the best pricing.
Right.
And as you get bigger, absolutely, you got to start looking at it.
Well, and it's just one of those things that if you really fine tune that over the years, you'll get back millions, as you grow, and you can put that back into marketing. You can put that back into your company, and your SEO and other things that you need to be doing to continue to grow in that growth. I love it. Britt, we met at Sub Summit, and I thought right away, like I felt like we clicked, and really nice guy. And I think the service rather is definitely a premium service, premium kind of white glove concierge thing. And I love it. And that's what people are looking for as they grow. So I'm excited that the people that are in my network are going to get to see this and hopefully learn from that.
The funny thing, Jeremy, is we sit around, Luke and I and the rest of my team, we sit around sometimes and we wonder why all these shippers are just not beating the doors down to get to somebody like us to help them save that money.
Right.
Again, one of the best parts of what we do in the white glove service of how we handle things is that we're really pulling the curtains back so that when we're going through this process, you're learning the process how we see it. So, in
a huge transfer, think of it as a master class in shipping.
Yes. So you're learning so much so that when we're out of the picture, I mean, you can carry this thing on because you know what to look for. Now. Education's expensive, but it doesn't have to be. You can save money with the education. This is one of the coolest ones is that, you don't actually have to pay us. I mean, the savings is paying us. So it really is such a win-win. No matter how you look at it, it's just, you cannot go wrong, whether it's audit or whether it's a contract optimization, or, if you're a smaller shipper, we also have a group programs where, there's power in numbers. We've always heard that saying, and we can do the same thing here. We have access to a group program. So if you're a smaller shipper and you think, maybe I'm not big enough for these guys, we can look and see, hey, if I've got 2,000 people on a group plan, that's 2,000 people. That's a lot of shipping dollars. Now you're equating yourself and you're on the same kind of pricing program as like a Best Buy or an Apple would be. You can get those same great rates because there's power in numbers. So even if you're a smaller shipper and you don't feel like you're quite there yet, we can get you in a group plan, and that's evergreen. It's constantly evolving. It's constantly being tweaked. It's constantly staying ahead of the market to keep best-in-class rates going. And you can stay a small shipper. You can stay a small. I mean, I know plenty of people that are small. When I say small, I'm just saying, hey, they're taking care of them and their families. It's, they're doing enough to maintain a lifestyle. They don't have to get to where, some of these other guys are. But in a group plan, real simple, easy switch to a group plan can get you some best-in-class rates, even as a small shipper.
Awesome. Britt, I wanted to let Jeffrey here ask his question. Him and his wife were both asking a question, I think, and they're both in here. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Yeah, hi. As you may or may not know, we are in Hong Kong. We spend a lot of time going to China, and we were talking to a lot of logistics companies because they were very aggressively trying to get work, I think, because of the tariff, those kind of things. But one of the things that come across is that there's a lot of drone activity in delivery evolving over here. And I'm wondering whether you actually have a future plan in that kind of direction, or you just strictly sticking with like putting it in a van and manually carrying. Well, what's your strategy for the future?
Our strategy has nothing to do with what the carriers are doing. Again, we're not a carrier. If UPS or FedEx and all those guys decide to go completely drone, well, then we'll adapt and our pricing, what we do is still helping you save money on those drone pricing. It kind of is, so to speak, if that makes sense. Still, our entire goal is just to save you money. We're not a carrier. If UPS decides to go to all electric vehicles and now they got to make pit stops to do, to charge their electric car. I don't know. How they operate is how they operate. We're just here to make sure that you're paying the absolute lowest prices you can get for what's good for you, based on your packages, based on where they're going, and based on the weight, all that package level detail and what's good for you. That's it. So we don't care if they go all drone. Yes, you're right, though. I think you mentioned something about adding drone surcharges. Yeah, they probably would. They're getting ready to come up with, you've heard of the air tags. You've heard of air tags going on luggage. Well, they're doing something similar in a label now.
Yeah, labels.
They're going to charge more for that. We don't want you to pay if they want 50 cents a package for those, we don't want you to pay that much. Our goal is just to save you money, whichever way we can do it. And with that, I do need to bail. Jeremy, thanks again.
Thank you.
Literally, he is the most knowledgeable guy on our team. So you guys have at it. Luke, thank you again, buddy, for coming and joining me with all this. And we'll catch you on the flip side.
Yeah, Luke.
I have one question here.
We have a couple of questions. Hold on 1 second. Who was that?
It's Nitin this side, me here in India. I wanted to know how I can start with the partnership guys, and it's my new company and I'm just starting with the development of Shopify stores. Basically, my idea is to how we can increase the customer retainership and customer lifetime value. How we can achieve that, and how we can improve the customer lifetime value. That's my.
Are you talking about partnering with Shipware and how you can possibly utilize their services with your customers?
On the commission basis, that I can give you some commission. You can also benefit with that. So
it's probably a good question to answer. We do have a couple of people in here that are from the agency world. And so do y'all have any kind of partnerships that you do with agencies and such?
Yeah. As far as we've got a very mature partner network as far as folks that are going to, be complementary to our business. We work with a lot of e-commerce retailers, that sort of thing, of course. So if there's an overlap where we can bring in a partner to deliver value on areas that we don't focus on, the marketing, that side of thing, or the other Shopify apps and vice versa, we're definitely open to those conversations.
And also, do y'all have any kind of like partnership program or anything like that y'all do?
We do. Yeah. Yes, of course. Yeah, definitely. We've got a very mature partner program and lead referral back and forth and whatnot.
So Nitin, thank you for your question. I did want to address Damian Kennedy, a friend of mine from here in Austin, asked a question: what is the minimum GMV merchant needs to have to make it worthwhile for y'all? What is the lowest end to start on? Mind you, this guy is working for Irish Titan, which is a badass agency, and they deal with a lot of really incredible clientele.
Yeah, great question, Damian. So I'd say we talk a little less in GMV and more in shipping spend as a rough number, and it's going to vary by industry and product mix and all that. Revenue is usually about 10x what your shipping spend is, roughly speaking. That can vary significantly, but we talk a little more on the shipping spend side. So usually about 100,000, 200,000 or so as far as annual shipping spend is when it starts to make sense for both sides and be equitable for both sides.
For them.
It all comes down to what your shipping profile looks like. And it's a great question, Kathy. If you're shipping everything that's under a pound, the post office is probably going to be your best bet for that versus more of a direct contract with UPS or FedEx. When you start getting what I usually say as a rough number is if you get packages that are shipping longer zones, so more than 200-300 miles from the origin, from wherever your warehouse is, and over 4, 5, 6 pounds. That's when those platform rates, or the UPS has what's called the DAP program or digital access program. It's the rates on Shopify, ShipStation, all of those different shipping platforms. The post office has got the same rates, and they're very similar across all those platforms as well. If you've got to start to get heavier packages, go into longer zones, then I think that's when those group plans start to make more sense. If you're shipping really short zone, really lightweight, especially under a pound, the post office is probably your best bet on that. I say all that. We start with a no cost assessment. So if you, whether it's yourself or somebody else you think might be a fit, send them our way. We'll take a look at their data, run a no cost assessment, and then let them know if there's some opportunities for cost reduction there. And if it doesn't make sense from our side, at the very least, point them in the right direction if there's a better solution out there for them for where they're at today.
Great. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Did we have any other questions on the call? Anybody else have questions? Fantastic. I am super excited about this episode. Always, I'll tell you, Luke, my big thing, I spent 7.5 years at BigCommerce, and the last 4.5 years, I did a job of basically helping consult and help grow clients while helping create stickiness with the clients. But the things that it really comes down to are the small things. People forget that. They forget that keeping an eye on your shipping and your taxes and all these things keep your business in a more secure place and give you the ability to invest in the things that you need to, like marketing, that you're going to have to pay for. You're going to have to put money into at some points. Very excited to bring this to my audience. Thank you again for coming on, and we'll see y'all all soon. Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity. Appreciate the questions, everybody.
Country boy awful far from home.